see you all this morning. My husband and I were able to be in the Kids View live session just a few minutes ago, and if you didn't get to be in it, it was awesome. We got so many wonderful ideas to take home with us. My name is Courtney. My husband Calvin's going to speak to you in a few minutes, but we are from Fort Smith, Arkansas. We are the children's pastors there at the Pentecostal Church. So first and foremost, I just want to say thank you to our pastor, Brother Sullivan, for letting us come, and not only letting us, but being so excited that we were going to get to come. Our church loves children's ministry, and as you know, when you have a supporter behind you, someone that believes in the vision, your children's ministry can be dynamic, but it has to come from the top down, and we have a wonderful, wonderful leader that we give honor to, and we give honor to this church. This is top notch. This conference is amazing. The facilities, the leadership, it has all been wonderful. We have enjoyed ourselves so very much. So our session is titled Managing a Growing Children's Ministry. So I want to give you just a little bit of background real quick about my husband and I. We have been somehow jointly in children's ministry for the last 18 years. So I became a Sunday school teacher when I was 17. I went to a very small church, and I remember going in the pastor's office. He called me in the office, and I thought, I haven't done anything. I'm not sure why I'm getting called in the office for. And he said, how do you feel about children? And I said, I love kids. I think they're awesome. And he said, great. Here's your Sunday school book. I need you in there next Sunday for the 4th grade Sunday school class. And the rest is history. So I've never left. It's been awesome. And I was a public school teacher for a while, so kids have just been my life. And I thank God for that he saw fit to put that calling on my life, because it has been the very best. As I said, I came from a very small church where, if you did one thing, you did everything, right? And I know some of you can commiserate with that with me, that you do a lot of things, but it's such a great ministry opportunity because you learn so many different skills. It's a training ground. So we've been in lots of different size children's ministries, lots of different demographics. I feel honored to be in children's ministry. Children are precious to Jesus. They were his ministry. In fact, he rebuked his own disciples when they tried to keep the children from him. And so I love to use that line whenever we're recruiting and trying to get someone in children's ministry, and they say, I don't really think kids are my thing. And I get to say, oh, but they were Jesus's. Oh, do you love Jesus? And they're like, yes. I'm like, oh, then you're going to love children's ministry. They were his ministry. It's hard to say no to that, guys. It is really hard to be like, no, I'm not doing that. But you think about it. He is trusting us with his most precious little souls, these little gifts. He's trusting us to help impact eternity. We had a ministry fair last week at our church, and our little booth set up for children's ministry. It was funny. People give that booth a wide berth, and they're like, we're praying for you, Sister Courtney. We're praying for you, Brother Calvin, but we're not going to sign up. And, we have all these suckers, and we're like, just come get a sucker. Just come here, because they know if we can get you over there and give you a piece of candy, you're ours, and we're going to keep you. But we began to talk to people and say, no, you get to walk into children's ministry and say, I'm a children's minister. I get to work with children every week. And it's an honor and a privilege, and I don't take it lightly. So we're going to talk to you a little bit this morning about managing your children's ministry. Yours may be smaller, it may be bigger. I'll tell you a little bit about ours. When it started, we had, how long ago would you say children's ministry, how it is now? 15, 20 years ago? We ran about 25 to 30 kids. It was a smaller ministry, and over the years it has grown, and we had amazing leaders before us that took it to that place, and then we're able to kind of take their vision and run with it. And so as of today, our children's ministry, where we're at, is on a Wednesday night we run somewhere between 80 and 90 children through our building, and then on a Sunday, when we have our kids church Sunday, we're somewhere between 110 and 120, because we have kids that don't come on Wednesday nights. And that's across, we run age 3 through sixth grade in our kids building, and then we have 2 kids classes going in our sanctuary. We have a 2-year-old class, and then we have our nursery class that starts at 3 months old and goes up to 2 years old. So we have lots of different working parts going on. And so whether you have a small ministry or a big ministry or an in-between ministry, all of this works that we're going to talk about. And it's all important because it's a child's soul. Even if you only had one in your class on Sunday morning, it's a soul that's in there. And they are worthy of our very best. Amen? So let's talk first a little bit about building your Sunday school team. You might only have a need for one group of people to help you. How our children's ministry works is we have several different teams going on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning. And so first and foremost, as a leader in children's ministry, the first thing that you have to do that we fully believe in is you take it to prayer. Who's going to be in there with you? Because you want someone who is anointed of God to speak to children, to be in there with you. That's what you want. You want the right people that are in there. And God will put them there for you if you pray about it. You know, sometimes we tell the story in the Bible about the 7 years of feast and the 7 years of famine. And if you've been in children's ministry for very long, sometimes it feels like we're smack dab in the middle of the 7 years of famine when it comes to volunteers, right? When it comes to getting help in children's ministry. But we've found if you begin to pray, God will send people. I actually had a lady come a couple weeks ago on a Wednesday night, and she said, I don't really want to tell you this. I said, okay, what is it? She said, God's been dealing with me. And he just keeps telling me, get involved with kids ministry. Get involved with kids ministry. And I said, I have been praying for you. I have been praying for God to send me willing vessels. And do you know, she had her first experience, and she came to me with tears in her eyes, and she said, this is where I want to be. I love this so much. If you pray for the people, God will send you the right people. Take it to prayer. Everything to prayer. And then we get into the practicalities of it all, right? The nitty-gritty. And that's deciding who works well together, right? Team teachers that work well together. I'm not going to put 2 slightly chaotic teachers together, right? I'm going to need one of those type A teachers and then a partner teacher that maybe is going to bring a little bit of the fun in and a little bit of the energy. And they're going to work well together, and they're going to make each other grow. And they're going to stretch each other, and they're going to be an amazing team. So think about who will work well together in ministry. We also have to think about what format works best for us. For our church right now, we run Wednesday night classes, and then we do kids' church once a month right now. We do a huge kids service. We serve them breakfast. They come at 10:30. We serve them breakfast. Our service starts at 11 and runs concurrent to our main service. And so we do a whole big kid service with them, altar, prayer. That's what works for us right now. But prior to that, when we were kind of building our new sanctuary, we had 2 services on a Sunday morning, a 9 and an 11 o'clock service. So for that, we were running a 9 o'clock kids service and an 11 o'clock kids service. So we had to work with what worked with our pastor. We had to catch his vision to make sure that we were ministering to kids in a way that he was in agreement with. Our kids' church right now is working awesome. We have people that call the church all the time, is kids' church this Sunday? Is it this Sunday? So we try to keep it on the 3rd Sunday of every month so that people know that 3rd Sunday, it's kids' church. You're coming down there. But be open to what God leads you to do, because a couple months ago, the Lord led us with a children's evangelist in our area to have kids' church more often, to do it twice a month for a couple months. And so we were having kids' church twice a month, and God really moved in our children's ministry. Our pastor was on board with it. He said, absolutely, let's do this for a couple months. And it really helped us build some momentum with our children. So pray about it, talk to your pastor about it, and find the format that works best for you. Now, we talked about volunteers. 99% of your people are just that. They are volunteers. They're not paid to come in and do what they do. They're doing it out of the call of God on their lives, out of the goodness of their heart. And so we have to remember that. Remember that a lot of times, this person that's volunteering is also going to be singing on the praise team, might also be out after church greeting people, might be in the cafe helping do things. And wouldn't it be wonderful in a perfect world if all those schedules aligned every Sunday and nobody was double booked? Wouldn't that be a miracle? But we're not there yet, still waiting on that miracle from God. And so sometimes we have to be flexible. So I want to encourage you that it's easy sometimes to be like, well, my ministry is really important, and your ministry is important. But it takes the entire church working together in unity to make it work. And if in the children's ministry, we're not flexible, we're like, oh, no, you can't go do that. You got to be here always, all the time. People aren't going to want to work for you, right? But if you're kind, you can say, I absolutely understand. And maybe we can work ahead next month so that this doesn't happen, because I really miss you when you're here. You're so important to this ministry. And putting that kind of spin on it, people are like, oh, I'm missing children's ministry today. Man, I don't get to be in there where it's so much fun and it's so awesome. So just as leaders, thinking about how we build our teams, how we treat those people is vital. I want to talk to you about leading the teams a little bit. So you build your team, and I do want to say this about building your teams. When you build your team, it's okay to change it. Pray over your team. Pray over them every day. Ask God, show me, do I need to move them? Are they happy where they're at? We recently just had a couple that was teaching our 5th and 6th grade class, and they were doing a great job. But God put it in mine and my husband's hearts that there's more for them, that they're not quite reaching their potential right where they're at. And so we went and asked them, we said, would you be willing, and we said it like that, would you be willing to move down and teach the kindergarten and 1st grade class? And that takes a special heart sometimes. And they said, yeah, we'll give it a try. And they moved and went and taught that class, and they came to us that night when the sweet lady had tears in her eyes, and she said, I love that class. That's where we need to be. That's where we were supposed to be. And we would have missed it as leaders had we not been praying about it, had we not taken our team to prayer. I asked Jesus everything. What do I do here? How do we do this? I mean, he knows my voice. I can assure you of that, because I'm always asking him things. And we should very much ask him how to lead our teams. So we've talked about praying over our teams regularly, and I've noticed a common theme going on so far in this conference, and it's going to continue to go on today, is that nothing takes the place of a personal prayer life. Absolutely nothing. You can plan all you want. You can have the best games, the best lights, the coolest costumes. But if it's not anointed, if prayer is not there, it's all in vain. Nothing substantial is going to come out of that other than some sugared up kids and some excitement, right? They're excited about it. But man, when you've been praying over it, and you can add the anointing, and you can add your prayer life in there, and when you stand there and you speak, you do it with authority. The Holy Ghost comes in and helps you. And then all those little wiggly kids, they get real still in the presence of God, because they're like, oh, there's something here. Every spirit understands the anointing. They understand the authority that comes with that. And that comes with being a good leader. We have to have a personal prayer life every day. And then when you're leading your team, and this kind of goes along with praying, we got to build connections with our team. We have a lot of people on our team right now. We have probably, counting our young people, we have 60 to 70 volunteers that we communicate with on a weekly basis. And it would be very easy to let someone get lost in that shuffle. But we try really hard every week when we talk to them, hey, how are you doing? And listen to them. Because it's easy. I know it's easy on a Sunday morning when something hasn't gone right and you're running and trying to help this check-in computer that decided to have the devil in it that morning and not work out. And you're over here and you've got a kid that's their first time and they're crying for mom and you're trying to help all these things. It's easy to miss your people. It's easy to be, how are you doing? And then keep going as they're answering. You just keep walking away. But to actually stop and to listen to what they say and then follow up on it. Someone tells me they had something going on in their family that week. Oh, I've had sick kids. The next day or 2 days later, now I'm going to have to make a note about it, but I'm going to text them and say, hey, how are you doing? How is this person doing? And it lets them know they see me, they hear me, they care about me. Let them know, hey, we're praying for you today. We'll just sometimes randomly send messages to some of our teachers, hey, you're on my heart today. We're praying for you. And it means so much. And I can tell you it means so much because when I get those texts from different people saying, Sister Courtney, I just want you to know I'm praying for you today. Oh, it means so much. It means so much to me. I feel seen and I feel loved. And I know that Jesus has me on his mind because he's put me on someone else's mind. So as leaders, being aware of that, connecting with your team, doing it on a regular basis. And in this day, we have to meet people where they are. When I first started children's ministry, it was easy to get people to come to an in-person meeting. We all gathered together. It was no big deal. Well, then now we have text messaging and we have all the phones and we have all the technology and everybody's busy. So my husband and I had to get kind of creative a couple years ago. We always have an annual in January or February, an annual children's ministry meeting at our church where all of our ministers, all of our team, we just get them together because we kind of just want to instill the vision for the year. We want to get some momentum going, tell them how amazing they are and that we love them. And we had this in-person meeting, and because of everything else going on, we just didn't have all of our people show up that we wanted to. Right? This is real life. We didn't have quite the turnout that we wanted to. And so we're like, man, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way that we can fix this. Like, we know these people love children's ministry. They just weren't able to make this meeting. And so my husband, in all of his wonderful ideas, because he has many of them, he said, let's try a Zoom meeting. Why don't we try this next year? Let's send out a Zoom link. I was like, okay. So we got the approval to do it. We sent out our Zoom link to people, and we more than doubled the attendance of the previous year. We almost had every single person on our meeting, and it was actually quite comical, and it was a great representation of children's ministry leaders. We had one person who is our children's evangelist that bases out of our church on the call, and he was just frying burritos the whole time that we were talking, and he was like, I'm so sorry, my ADD is kicked in, and he's just frying burritos while we're talking, and we were laughing at him. He stopped and listened, don't worry, but there was people in the car, there was people at home, and they said, thank you so much for sending this out, because we wanted to be a part of this meeting, but we couldn't make it with our schedule, or we had a sick kid, or we had this going on. Would I have preferred in my heart to have seen everybody's face and be able to say hi to everybody and give hugs and talk? Absolutely. But the need at that moment mandated that it had to be different. I had to change it. So don't be afraid when Jesus pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit and asks you to do something different or something new, because those are good things, and it helped us grow our ministry and be able to reach more people. And then also we were able to record that meeting and then send it to the people that weren't even on the Zoom link. So everybody got all the information. We were able to connect. And then the other kind of the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is training with your team. I don't know, some of you may have already done this, but if you have not been on Ministry Central, there is a training on there, and it is for children's ministry. It is for Sunday school teachers. It is a 10-unit course. There are 10 courses you go through. Each lesson has a 5 to 10 minute video. It's 10 minutes max that you watch a video. And I know that sounds, you're like, oh, that's a lot of work. That's what I thought too. When my pastor came to me a couple years ago and said, I want you to do this and I need your certificate of completion here in a couple months. And I just said, yes, sir. Absolutely. And I got on there and it blessed my soul so much. There were many times I had to pause the videos because the Spirit just overwhelmed and I was weeping because of the wonderful things that they were saying and the wonderful training. So if you have not been on and done that, I would encourage you, and we've encouraged our team to do that. Is why I wanted to bring it up. It's something that it's an amazing training. There's a book you can print out and continue to go over with it with your children, but it is apostolic ministers, children's ministers ministering to us and encouraging us, and it is wonderful. When you communicate with your team, communicate with grace. The Bible says, let your speech be always with grace. There are times when a planning center notification comes in 30 minutes before toddler class starts and it says this person declined. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be graceful right now. I don't, Jesus, at all. I just want to say what I want to say. And he always says, no, you can't do that. I can't let you say what you want to say. And I have to go and be gracious and say, hey, are you okay? I saw where you declined. And, a lot of times it's been, oh, my kid just threw up in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, awesome. Take them home. Do not go in this children's class. Things happen, right? And if we react out of our gut instinct sometimes, we can get into trouble. But the Bible tells us to let our speech be always with grace. And Sister Vernon, who is amazing and has been with us many times, and she tells me a lot. She says to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Smile and be kind, but know, because you have a spirit of discernment, because you've been in prayer, what's going on around you. So communicate with grace to your team. I can promise you, if you do those things, you will have people that want to be with you, that want to work with you, that want to learn under you. And at this moment, I'm going to bring to you the very best speaker to finish out talking about some Sunday school content. My husband, who is my biggest fan, and I'm his, so come on up here, Calvin. He's going to talk to you about some of our Sunday school content, some events, and how to stay safe in your children's ministry.
I was kind of hoping she would forget when we were planning the handoff. I was just going to let her go because she just does such a phenomenal job, and I'm so blessed with my wife. She's phenomenal, keeps me aligned and go in the right direction, and thankful. It's awesome to have a teammate and that has the same burden and same passion as you do, and so I'm just so thankful for her. And that's kind of how I wanted to start this next part is, so we're talking about Sunday school content. And again, you kind of have, like she was mentioning, you have to shape it to what makes sense for your church. And it can be a curriculum book that, like she talked about when she first started in her small church and her pastor handed her book. And so you might, for your Sunday school, you might use a curriculum. For your kids' church, there might be things used for a suggestion. You might use Bible stories, and you're coming up with praying about it and coming up with your own lesson. But the most important thing, whatever content you use, however you use it, is to be passionate. That's the absolute most important thing, is for the kids to feel your passion when you're teaching. Because, and I don't mean, I'm sure I'm looking across this room and I can only imagine, like we're up here talking to you, like I want to like sit down and learn from you. I can only imagine how phenomenal of teachers I'm looking at across this room. But I hate to break it to you, but the kids that you teach, and even the adults, if you're ever teaching adults too, they're really likely not going to remember what you say. But they are going to remember how you make them feel. Every time. I wish I could remember everything that I learned at every Sunday school lesson and every what my pastor preached last Sunday, but give me a minute. I'm sure I'd come up with it. But we forget. Some people say you got to hear something 7 times to really get it in your brain. But you will always remember how someone made you feel. And so when you and I are, and my wife, when you're teaching, whatever class, whatever setting, whether it's 2 kids or 100 kids, whatever it is, they will always remember how you make them feel. Smile. If you forget your lesson, smile. If your mic goes out, smile. If you whatever the situation you're dealt with, if a phone goes off, like when we were in the kids' view just a minute ago, I hope, and if your phone goes off in here, that's perfectly fine. Hey, it's okay. Smile, right? And go with it. But ultimately, just be passionate. Make a connection, because you're connecting with your kids. What is going out from you is it's going to be received, and there's going to be a connection. So when you're connected to Him and it's flowing through you, you don't have to worry about, because you're always trying to, you always want to make sure you're feeling the crowd, right? If your crowd's like, if your kids are just looking up and you're talking and they're looking all around like, well, okay, well, maybe I need to do something a little different right now. Maybe I need to stop and stretch and do, right? You always kind of have to be mindful of how you're teaching and who you're teaching and how it's going. So, but more than anything, be passionate. Be creative. Come up with different things, different ways to teach, and styles and approaches. There's not a box, right? That, especially thankfully with children's ministry, right? There's no box that you have to get into. Just a few practical things. I can't remember if we've got it on the handout or not, but so we try different curriculums, and again, you try to find things that work for your church. Pentecostal Publishing House is a great place, great source for curriculums that you can use, and we've tapped into that a decent bit. We use group publishing quite a bit. I'm not sure if anybody in here uses group or not, but we've found a few things that we like from their curriculum. There's one called Simply Loved, and I'll get here in a minute. But there's one called Simply Loved, and it actually plays off of their Vacation Bible School curriculum, and so it's got it brings all the characters back. So their Vacation Bible School has Bible buddies and characters, and so fun things for the kids. And so this Simply Love curriculum brings back those Bible buddies. And so we'll be teaching a lesson, and there was a character from VBS 8 years ago, and it's I remember that walrus, Willie the Walrus or whatever, and then there he is again. Anyways, so it's just kind of a neat way to make the connection, and we use that. One thing though, and again, it depends on how you structure things. So we take more of a Sunday school approach on Wednesday nights. And so for our Wednesday nights, my wife was mentioning we have a kindergarten, first grade. We have a preschool class, and we have a kindergarten, first grade right now, second, third, fourth grade, and then a fifth, sixth grade class. Well, what we kind of found was that our fifth and sixth graders, they're starting to mature, and they're starting to their bodies are changing, and their attitudes are changing. Everything's changing, and so the curriculum that we had for first, second grade wasn't quite working for fifth and sixth grade. So I was all right, we got to be flexible. Let's figure out what we can do. And so we found one through group called Be Bold. And so we've used that, and then we've kind of played off of it and used different things. But what's been neat about that curriculum, and so this is what we do for fifth, sixth grade now. And again, it's a season, right? So what we do is and it's based on a question. And so what our teachers will do in that fifth, sixth grade class is there is a question. And this last week, I actually taught the class, and the question was, do all good people go to heaven? So it's real questions that they might have. And so we base the whole lesson, the games, everything on that question. And the whole point is, what's the Bible say? You might have questions, but it doesn't matter what anybody else says, but we got to figure out what the Bible says. And so we will put a Bible in their hands, and we're opening the Bible, and we're reading, what does the Bible say? Again, we're doing different fun things with it, but we've got the inspiration from that through the Be Bold curriculum. If you are using non-apostolic curriculum, and we love group, but the writers of that are not apostolic, so you do have to be mindful what you're teaching. Okay, you don't want to get up there and say, would you like to now accept Christ as your personal Savior? You don't read the manual, right? Right. Don't just get up there and read the manual. You have to be mindful of it. So we, always encouraging our teachers that, hey, prepare ahead. We send the lessons out in advance and make sure you're preparing. But always read it. Just a little funny story. We had Vacation Bible School this past year. Does anybody do group VBS? Anybody in here ever use it? Anyway, like I said, it's neat. We enjoyed it. It works for us. They had a new one of the split sessions this year it was neat. It was a Bible exploration, and so part of the handouts that we bought these. It was all based on the Gospel of John, and so each kid got a Gospel of John pamphlet. And so what they were doing in that session is every kid got a book of John, and so the whole week, they would come to that session, and they would have the book of John, and they were watching fun videos with it, but part of it was they were learning to highlight scriptures, and so it was a way to teach the kids how to study the Bible and how to highlight things and how to make notes in the column. And so anyway, so it was the whole Gospel of John, and but it's fun. They had pictures in there and different commentary on the side, and so we got all the stuff in, and so my wife and I were just looking over everything. It's like, well, I'm going to read this pamphlet, and because I saw some commentary, I was like, I'm just going to read it. And I got to reading it, and there was one part about, it was in John 3, I think, and there was a little commentary over the side, and it was talking about the Father, Son, and the Spirit. And these three are one. I was like, oh, this is great. Hey, look how they wrote, this is great. And then it was and then these three are three distinct persons, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. I was like, we are not going to hand this handout out, and then all of a sudden something gets back that we're teaching some false, So we really like this idea. We want to have the Gospel of John. We didn't have. I was like, well, what are we going to do? Whiteout. And so we went and bought whiteout, and we got 200 books out. And my wife and I and a few we went through and whited out. I mean, hey, you know what? If a kid saw whiteout, then hey, so that's just what. Be mindful of what you're teaching, what you're handing your kid. We try to do handouts and different things like that, but just always be mindful of. We want to make sure that everything that we do is apostolic, right? And make sure that what we're handing our kids is and that's the ultimate goal. Whatever it is that, and whatever level, first, second grade, they're not too young for apostolic doctrine. Fifth and sixth grade, that's the thing too with my wife and I have picked up on learning kids is kids are smart. They're real smart. And sometimes we might think, ooh, boy, this is kind of hard. This is a deep topic. They're good. They're ready. They can handle it. And now again, you have to make it on their level, but be apostolic. Don't be afraid to teach apostolic doctrine, apostolic concepts to your children, because they're listening, they're learning to other things. It's amazing to me how sharp kids are these days, and what they pick up on, and so our philosophy is hey, when they're underneath our roof, when they're in our building, we're gonna fill it with apostolic message, apostolic doctrine, everything apostolic. And then hopefully when they go home, then maybe instead of all entertainment and YouTube and video game, things are going to start shifting and changing, because they're receiving and they're getting information from somewhere. And so, hey, let's make it apostolic, and let's make it fun. Let's make it exciting. Let's teach them that, hey, when you're at home, you praying is not just on Sundays and Wednesdays. You can pray anywhere. You can read the Bible. Reading the Bible is fun. Praying is fun. And how do we, again, just trying to demonstrate that and push that forward. So always, always, always. Last thing I'd say in that Sunday school content section is to just, and Sister Vernon mentioned it last night, whatever your format is, always be willing to let Jesus break in. You can have the curriculum, prepare ahead. Obviously don't read your lesson when you're up there. Use it as a guide, but let Jesus break in. You can, and I'm guilty of it. I get accused of, my wife accused me of I'm long-winded sometimes, and I get all excited and want to read my 20 scriptures that I've got written down. But typically with a child, again, they're not going to remember everything that I said, but they are going to remember how I made them feel. And one moment in the presence of God can change their life forever. One moment. And a lot of times that moment, it might, and again, that's part of why watching your crowd is so great. That's why you can't teach just looking at your book. You've got to watch your crowd, because typically there's going to be about a 5-minute window when you're teaching that you can get them, right? Where like right there, where all of a sudden everything's aligned, and that right then is when, all right, here it is, okay? And I've got to be willing to step out of the way and let God move. And if that's on a Wednesday night, if that's in a class with 10 kids, or that's a huge kids' church service with lights and puppets and all, it doesn't matter. One moment in His presence can change a kid's life forever. One moment. So we've talked a lot about events. I won't go too far, and we want to leave time for questions, but my wife kind of hit on it too. Whatever the event is, make it fun, make it memorable, make it exciting. Kids ministry should be the most fun, right? It should be engaging. Vacation Bible School, I kind of mentioned a little bit, it works for our church, and we try to do it upright, and we start out, we advertise, it is a community outreach for us. It is a way that we pull the whole church together. Like it is a church event. It's not just a kids ministry event. It's a church event, and we have all kinds of volunteers and staff, and so it's a way for us to really encapsulate kids ministry, and again, and it's a big community outreach for us. But there's different ways, different events, fun events. Do fun things with them on a Saturday or a Friday night or game night or whatever it might be. There's different ways and different things you can do, but just don't forget to have fun. That's kind of what we're always trying to make sure that we're having fun, our staff's having fun, smiling, engaging. Again, Sister Verna talks about making a connection. Always make a connection with your kids. The stay safe part, it's kind of important. We do want to stay safe. Kids ministry is dangerous. It is very dangerous, both funny and not fun. It is dangerous, right? And we have to be careful and mindful. And so that's staying safe in terms of making sure that kids are keeping their hands and feet to themselves, right? All the way to, again, and I pray that this, and when we pray that this never ever happens. And I'll get to the next part too in a minute. Making sure that if there's a situation and there's something happens and a little girl, that there's not an adult male with a little girl by themselves somewhere in a room where there's nobody around, right? And vice versa. Like we're always trying to be safe, putting our staff in a position that there's no doubt, there can be no questions raised, because you just never know. You can't be too safe these days, especially if you have in your church. If you have visiting kids and visiting you just don't know. You just don't know, and so you have to be safe. Have protocols. If there is a discipline issue with a little girl, make sure that there's a female staff. And if you're the male and you see it and you engage and you need to address it, grab a female staff member. Document things. We've got an incident report that if there's something that comes to that level, that we have an incident report. We run background checks on our staff. We want a growing staff, and we run background checks to make sure that, again, everything's above board. And so if anything, we've got background checks. We've got cameras in all our main areas, and we don't have cameras in every place, like an office or something like that, but we tell our staff, like, hey, there is no camera in here, okay? So if you have to do a discipline issue, like, don't do it in here, okay? Like, does that make sense? And so that's what we're always trying to just make sure that we're staying safe, we're positioning our staff. We've done training from a abuse standpoint. Again, I pray, and I know I'm talking to the cream of the crop here, okay? But we just don't want anything. We don't want to leave any shadow of doubt in any way, shape, or form. And so we try to go to that extent of making sure that we are doing everything we can to stay safe. Because I mean, sometimes you see it in the headline and you read things about things that happen in kids ministries and other. It's like, Lord, please don't. We're going to do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen here. And so it's just being intentional. And we try to make sure, and we stay in contact with our pastor. If they're in our pastoral staff, our associate pastor, if there's things that they need to know, we let them know. We operate from we got this little phrase, we say, don't surprise your pastor. And that's our whole thing. And so sometimes we're like, well, should we let him know? Should we not? We're going to if we have that little doubt, we're going to let him know. And we're going to shoot him a text. Just, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. This happened. We, took this, and this, and just wanted you to be aware. The company I work for in Fort Smith, one of the former presidents of our company, prior to me being there, he was a simple man and didn't have in his office didn't have a lot of decorations or anything like that. But he had one thing that a little placard that sat on his desk, and all it said, it was 2 words, and it said, "No surprises." And that was his instruction to his staff. I just don't want to be surprised. Just whatever it is, I don't want to be surprised. So we've taken kind of that philosophy and said we're not going to surprise our pastor and say, "Oh, pastor, that parent that just talked to you about this issue, we knew about it a couple weeks ago. We just didn't tell you, and I'm sorry." And I know you got caught. So you can't be. We're probably not going to be perfect, but it's something that we try to do to be intentional. If it's something that happened that raises to that level, we just try to make sure our pastor's in the know. Again, it just goes back to you just can't do enough to stay safe and create that safe environment and taking those protocols and those things that are needed. So last thing I'd say, just kind of to wrap it up, and we'll open up. Anybody got any questions or thoughts? Like I said, we'd love to learn from you. But I kind of got just 4 things. If I was to sum up kind of what we try to do, our approach to kids ministry, it's to be passionate, to be intentional, to be fun, and to be apostolic. And if you live by those 4 things, then everything else is going to be all right. Be passionate, be intentional, be fun, be apostolic. And all of that together is excellence. And that's what's so neat about being here at this conference is you can just feel the excellence and the desire to be the best and to because it matters. Putting forth your best matters. And again, and like Sister Vernon said, I guess it was Brother Conlon that actually said it last night at the very beginning, is like, kids ministry is hard. Everybody in this room, you're busy. You've got things going on. But I know you love kids. If you didn't love kids ministry, you wouldn't be here. And so when you go into that room, whether you're on your A game or not, they deserve your best. Whether you had an A+ day or a D- day, those kids deserve your best. He deserves our best. And he will help us, and he will. So thank you so much for letting us be here. We love talking about kids ministry so much. Let's see, we got 5 minutes. If you have any questions, and then my wife will be glad to answer all those questions. So, yes, sir.
How do you screen your volunteers? There's always that person that says, "I want to work back there," and you're like, "No, you don't."
That's a great question. So it's kind of, my wife mentioned it. We're literally in the middle of it right now. We've got Serve Sunday that serve Sundays because it's 2 Sundays, and so we got a bunch of booths that are set up. So it's just a way for people at our church to sign up for any ministry, and there can be. All ministries are different, right? We've got a lawn care ministry. We've got kids ministry. We got music ministry, and so it matters, right? And so whether someone has been, maybe they're just starting to come, but they haven't had an apostolic experience yet, or they haven't received the Holy Ghost. Well, we probably don't want to make them a main teacher, in our kids class, right? And so just, making sure that when those signups come in, and then we're getting volunteers, we've kind of got, and this is more of a church approach, but we've got, like, we call it different levels of volunteer. And so whether it's a kind of I can't remember if it's like a level 1 or a level 2 position kind of thing, and we try to stagger it, even in kids ministry. Like, and this was kind of neat. One of the couples she was talking about that now is our first and second grade teacher. When they first started, they served lunch, or they served our breakfast, and they were our hallway monitors, because they hadn't had an apostolic experience yet. They were a new couple that we were trying to win, and they were coming. And then it happened, and the Lord moved in their life, and then all of a sudden, as time went on, then it allowed for, okay, well, now they're ready to teach a class, and now, and so it was the way we did it. So and then more tactically, once we get actually people sign up, we do run background checks through a place called Shepherd's Watch online. So we'll do that piece of it. But the screening more comes that we're just connected with our church office, who kind of manages all our volunteers, and making sure that we're connected to that, and understanding, with our pastor, to make sure that, hey, here's our staff, here's who's leading classes, and again, and just so finding the right role for the right person. So does that answer your question? Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We'll love any input from any. Like I said, we're here to learn too. So yes, ma'am. Yeah. That's on upci.org, right? That's how you kind of navigate to that, I believe.
You can actually just Google Ministry Central, but I think it's like certification for Sunday school teachers is what it's called. They have different categories. If you look under children's ministry, it'll pop up, and it's a module for you to go through, but it's invaluable. I think I go back to it a lot sometimes just to remember things that I want to share, little pieces of information. Anyone else have a question? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so our vacation Bible school, we kick it off on a Wednesday, and we run it. Our Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night times are all the same. We do like 6 to 9 o'clock. Saturdays, we do VBS from 12 to 3, so we can serve them lunch, kind of skip the late night. And then on day 5, this is kind of where we build that community outreach, everything. Our day 5 VBS is our Sunday service. Our pastor just gives it to kids ministry, and we do day 5 VBS in the sanctuary. Every adult gets to become a kid. We invite all the families, the kids from the community that have been coming. Hey, come on day 5, and we make it a big deal. We say, we've had a competition all week. Who can bring the most change? You want your kid to come and get their prize. We have anything we can do to draw them there, and then we have service. And God always moves and shows up, and we've gotten a lot of new families from Vacation Bible School, but that's kind of our schedule on it. Yes. All right, anyone else? Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. Those are never fun to go through, but we have done them. We have done our fire drill so that our kids know whatever room that they're in, how to safely get out of the building with the teacher. We've done a tornado drill, but I will be very honest with you, our building is older, and a great big gust of wind might knock it over, and so little gust of wind. So we are praying heavily against that, but we've showed them safe places to go. If a dangerous person enters the building, thankfully, we have a great security team. We have a security team at our church. There is always a member of the security team in the children's building. Whenever children's stuff, they are in the hallway at the front doors. They have a radio so that they are in contact with the rest of the security team. And if they see anything in the parking lot, we actually had a situation 2 or 3 weeks ago where the security person came and got me and said, do you know this person that's just out there in their car? They had a kid that came in here, because they're watching and they're making sure to keep us safe. So we always have a security person in the building, but our teachers also know how to lock their rooms up should a situation arise. So we just do everything we can to stay safe, because as my husband said, we are the first line of defense in protecting our pastor. right? Children's ministry, he's talked to us, has the biggest liability. It does. We are protecting our pastor's ministry by staying safe. We are protecting the ministry of the church. And that's why it's so, we kind of harp on it a little bit. It's so important. Be safe in your ministry. Be safe. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to this session. We have enjoyed you all so much and appreciate you all. Thank you.